we're rewatching the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But does Johnny Depp's Wonka still work? Find out this week on Movies at Grandma's House. Hello. Please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Have a seat. We'll put a movie on for you. This is Movies at Grandma's House, where we look at the movies from the past, see with our modern eyes it's good, and Grandma approves. And I'm your host, Isaac. I'm sorry, I was having a flashback. And who's joining me to consider the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
It's Ajax. The best kind of prize is a surprise.
And welcome one and all to Grandma's House. And he did it, ladies and gentlemen. In bowling, he did the turkey. And if you're a hockey fan, he got a hat trick. It's Ajax. He's back for a third episode in a row. So welcome in. How are you feeling?
It has been 3. I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And I think you're setting the record. So, if you keep it going, who knows? Maybe that'll be an untouchable record. That,
3P.
We'll have to keep an eye on. Yes. 3P. I missed out on one. I knew I was forgetting one. But it's so great to have you join in. Seth sends his regards. Again, he will be back soon. We promise. But he does send his regards, and we'll look forward to his return. In the meantime, we're going to hang out, have some fun. And like we normally do, we want to make sure you have the proper spoiler warning. So from here on out, consider it spoiler territory. And if you love to visit Grandma's house, you want to show her some love, make sure you smash subscribe, give us a like if you enjoy the content as well, and comment your thoughts on the film we're considering and how you would review it. So this week, again, we are considering a film that is turning the big 2-0. It is now officially 20 years old. It is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This was released back on July 15th, 2005. It had a budget of $150 million, but the box office, it grossed $475.8 million. So it spent pretty much pretty penny there on the budget, but it made back quite a bit in return. And we're going to talk about, I feel like this was one of those 2000 films. One, I'm wondering what the merchandise was. We'll get into it, I'm sure, a little bit more. But looking at the reviews, IMDb has 6.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is at an 83%. So again, this is a movie that is turning 20 years old. So I'm interested to get your thoughts. Let's start with you, Ajax. What are some of your first memories with this film?
I remember liking it. I did see it in theaters. And then right after theaters, when it came out on Blu-ray, I ended up buying it. I don't know if it was Blu-ray. It might have been DVD in 2005. I can't remember. But I remember liking it enough to get it. And of course, I loved the original. And so I'm like, all right, well, this is a nice little companion piece to that one. So yeah, it was good, I thought.
Awesome. My first memories, I remember when this came out. This film, I just recall it everywhere, like every hot topic, every emo place, because emo and angst and teenagers, this was what followed it. It felt like this film was everywhere. You saw like shirts and backpacks. And like I mentioned, I'm curious to see what kind of money they made back on merchandise alone. With the royalties and all that stuff, I'm not sure how much was profit. But regardless, one of those things I need to look up. When it comes to the film, though, I didn't see this when it came out. And the reason being, I remember my brother went with a group, and normally we would go together, but for some reason I just was busy or had something going on. He came back and said it was terrible. He hated it. And he said everybody in the group hated it. So he said, just watch the original. Don't worry about the new one. If you want to watch it. And so I did. All these years, I've never watched this film. I just thought, I'll just watch the original. So that kind of got me a little excited when we were going to go to consider this, because I'm going into it with fresh eyes. But with that said, I'm curious now, going back to, this was 20 years ago. So what were some of your expectations going back on the rewatch?
I expected to like it just as much as I did back then. I can tell you that I had never watched it fresh off of watching the 1971 version. I had just watched it. This was like years and years after I watched the 1971 version again. So this is very interesting watching it 1 week removed from the original, but I expected to like it a lot more. I expected to enjoy my time because I love Tim Burton. I love the styles that he uses, and he really puts his own stamp and his identity on it. It's a signature Tim Burton film in every way. So yeah, I thought I would enjoy it.
All right. Well, my expectations, I actually had low expectations. I was like, again, people said it was terrible last I checked. And I know some people did like it. So that was kind of like, all right, I'll go into it as neutral as possible. But I did have low expectations. The other thought was, okay, like you mentioned, this is a Tim Burton movie. And there was some dark elements in the original, as much as we enjoyed that. They might be a little scary for the kids. So that was actually a little concern, maybe some expectations. I'm watching this with my kids. So again, my expectations, like normal, I'm wondering what they're going to think of this. If there are any scary moments, because I have no idea what to expect. I've never seen it. So that was kind of my expectation. It was just like, I'm going to buckle up and hope for a fun ride, hopefully. So, well, before we get into our plot rewind, let's pause for just a moment to hear from our sponsor. Hey, love movies as much as we do? Then bring the experience of the theater to your walls with movieposters.com. Whether you're into the classics, the blockbusters, or indie gems, they have something for every single film fanatic. As a listener of our podcast, you can save up to 15% on your order right now. Just use code Grandma's House 15 at checkout. Head to movieposters.com and let's build your ultimate collection today. All right. So in this case, this is 20 years ago. That's back when we had DVDs. So let's do that. Let's take the DVD out of the case. Let's put it in the DVD player and press play. So in the 2005 adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, young Charlie Bucket lives in poverty with his family near Willy Wonka's mysterious chocolate factory. When Wonka announces a contest offering 5 golden tickets hidden in chocolate bars that will grant winners a factory tour, Charlie miraculously finds the last ticket, along with 4 other children, Augustus Gloop, spoiled Veruca, Violet, and TV-obsessed Mike. Charlie enters Wonka's fantastical factory filled with edible landscapes and bizarre inventions. As the tour progresses, each of the other children's character flaws lead to their dramatic removal from the group through various chocolatey mishaps, leaving only the kind-hearted Charlie. Wonka, impressed by Charlie's goodness and integrity, ultimately offers him the chance to inherit the factory, though Charlie initially hesitates because it would mean leaving his family behind. The story explores themes of family, morality, and the consequences of greed, while showcasing Wonka's personality and the world he's created. So there you go. There's the plot of the updated from the 1971 that we just considered. But this is, again, an updated retelling, Tim Burton style. So I'm very curious. I'm very interested to hear, what are some of your first impressions when you're watching this movie?
My first impression was, wow, they really couldn't wait to get into that factory, because taking away from the first movie, you had basically 2 halves. You had the mystery of finding that golden ticket, all the different ways all of the characters found the golden ticket. And I couldn't believe how long it took to get into that factory in the first film. And then that second mystery is, who is this Wonka character? And should we trust him? Do we like him? Do we not like him? There was that back and forth you had. And by the end, you were charmed by him. You were moved by him. And in this one, a lot of that charm, a lot of that nostalgia, a lot of that mystery was removed and replaced with unnecessary backstory and flashbacks and just all kinds of CGI. I mean, this was 2005, so this is when they're like, let's get this technology into people's eyes and ears and let them see and hear for themselves what we can do with computers. And boy, did they ever shove it in our face in this one. So a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty much the same impressions I've got with it. And I was trying to remove myself from the original as much as you want to compare. And you can. I'm not saying you can't, but I was still trying to treat this as much as it's a remake, as much as it's using the same story from the book. You got to treat it as its own, because again, it's Tim Burton. It's going to be a different imagining. But I couldn't help but think, wow, this didn't age very well. It has bad CGI, like you mentioned, and maybe I'm nitpicking. I'm sure there's far worse CGI. I just didn't think it worked as well. Probably at the time, it was mind blowing, or at least people thought it was great. But I did like some things about it. But overall, my impression was just like, I think the beginning is the best part. As much as you said they moved to the factory real quick, I actually was interested at the beginning. It had that Tim Burton style. You saw the house kind of slanted, Tim Burton style. It had that dark theme being in the wintertime. I actually like that. But as soon as it hit the factory, I don't know what it was, but kind of like that tunnel, how it's on a, downslope. That's the feeling I kept getting the more and more it went on. So that was kind of my impressions, kind of watching it with that perspective with fresh eyes. But don't want to knock it entirely. Maybe we'll start with some pros. What were some pros or things that you liked about the film?
So you nailed my very first one was the house. The look of the house, maybe because the first one you were looking at like, okay, yeah, they're poor. They live in, can't even tell if this is connected to another building. Is it its own building? This one really, this is the Tim Burton flair you like to see. That house is awesome. I love it. I love how you could see through the ceiling at the snow falling and stuff. That was really cool. And then I appreciated the garden where they pull the cabbage out, seeing that visual. The cabbage comes in, they slice up the cabbage, they put it in the stew. I mean, that's those little tiny key elements are what make Tim Burton films really worth watching, to see his touch there. Also, I love the reactions of the patrons to Charlie finding the golden ticket, because it's very realistic. This is what would happen. They would all be like, "Oh, I want it. I'll give you this amount of money for it." So that was very cool. And then I loved Violet and Veruca's little catty thing they had going on, where Veruca was very pleased to see Violet rolled out. She's like, yes, cheering inside, even though they were pretending to be friends. They had that little, quarrel between them. And then the squirrels are so much better than the geese for the Veruca scene. And the squirrels were a plus. I like that. But my favorite thing overall in the whole movie, I loved Deep Roy as the Oompa Loompas, plural, played them all. I loved him. And then I loved Danny Elfman. His music, his score was great. And I loved his voice coming through in all the Oompa Loompa songs. So it wasn't quite like the musical in 71. It was more just focused on those 4 or 5 songs from the Oompa Loompas, but I really think it made a difference. So those are my pros.
Gotcha. I thought there was some good, I agree with you, like the shots that were done. It's very Tim Burton-esque. I really enjoyed those. Like, yeah, the cutting of the cabbage. I, again, like the beginning, the actual fake out where he gets it as a present and he's opening it and they're all watching him and you think it's the ticket, or at least, they think it's the ticket, and it isn't. I thought that was actually really well done, how it kind of brought you in. As much as if you've seen the original, it's not going to be a golden ticket that time. It was really well done. I actually liked it a little bit more than, like you're saying, the store. And I agree with you. I think that was a realistic way of, if a kid found a ticket in a store, everybody would be like, I'll give you this if you want it. And thankfully the candy clerk was like, get out of here, go home and stuff. So I enjoyed that. But there were certain elements of how it was shot. I got to give Tim Burton credit. He is a great director. He's good at getting the shots. I do think that there's some downfalls to him. We'll kind of get into it maybe a little bit more. And I will admit, I think people hated it, but the little animatronic things that sing at the beginning when they first get to the factory, when they caught fire, I did kind of laugh. I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. It was so silly, but when they
melting
caught fire,
eyeball.
but that was, yes, the melting eyeball and all that. But unfortunately, that's kind of where it stopped for me personally. So going into that, I want to hear from you first, though. Maybe what are some things you did like, or maybe they could have improved on at the very least?
Well, the first two that I have for you kind of go hand in hand. Number one is I did not like the Wonka reveal. Now, I was okay with the little animatronics, but there was no mystery or no buildup to his entrance. You think of Wonka, you think of it like making a grand entrance, and it was just a little cutesy joke of him standing next to the children watching the performance. For me, it's like that didn't impress me. And so you then stopped really caring about this character who you're supposed to really, really find involved in and see a mystery to. And I really think they destroy the mystery there. The other part that goes hand in hand with that is the flashbacks, where you even see him in a flashback before he's supposed to be revealed. Granted, he's like standing behind a mirror or something, so they're kind of like making it a little bit of a surprise. But I just think that it takes away from the overall mystery of Wonka himself in these flashbacks. And culminating in an ending where I get where they're coming from with the whole family centric thing, and that's kind of how Wonka was coming to fruition, and that's what really made him go, oh, it's all about family, not about my chocolate factory. But I gotta say, this unnecessary origin story they keep going back to, it really took away from the film overall for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The biggest flaw is unfortunately Wonka. This should be the star, and maybe people liked this interpretation. I took myself out of it. There's only one Gene Wilder, and I'm all for, hey, let's mix it up. Let's not just do an exact copy, because that's exactly what it felt like they were trying to do with this one. I think Johnny Depp is a great actor. I have a lot of respect for him. There's other movies I enjoy him in. But my hot take is this is probably Johnny Depp's worst role I have seen him in personally. I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't think it just, oh my gosh, I couldn't stand him. Like, going back to what you're saying about Wonka, there was no mystery there. He's just comes across as rude and snooty and just like, get away from me. I don't like you. Whereas we talked about it in the 1971 with Gene Wilder, he might at times show that, but it was because they were bratty little kids, and it was just kind of like, I'll hit you with some sarcasm. It wasn't outright rudeness. It was sarcasm, which is rude. I agree. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but it was much more charming, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is whereas this is just, he was very awkward. There was maybe a few awkward times with the original, but it was like 100% all the time awkward. And I think it goes back to, like you said, the flashbacks made it even more awkward of, okay, it makes sense, but it just, again, it took you out of it. Every time there was a flashback, it took me out of that scene immediately. And it was trying to build on his character, it was trying to showcase it, but it just didn't work for me. I don't know. I'm probably nitpicking it, but maybe with fresh eyes, it's just, that's how it is. I'm going to be interested to hear if anybody's never seen this movie and they watch it for the first time, if they feel like I do, because I probably have this like really strong hatred sound for it, but I was disappointed, I guess. That's maybe the best word I can say, is I was expecting, yeah, maybe he's not going to be as good, but it was just like, no, this is not what I was hoping for. I like the Wonka that has the mystery, not the rudeness, if that makes sense. Does that all make sense at all?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that I really think Depp's portrayal just dismisses the charm that we come to know and love from Gene Wilder's portrayal, and that he adds this, the sarcasm in Wilder's portrayal is missing from this one. And I think a really good example of it is with how he plays with Mike TV's character, where he says he's a mumbler and he's mumbling, but he's not mumbling. That's just his awkward defense to Mike TV insulting him, and he took offense to it, and so he's just calling him a mumbler. Well, that's not funny, and that's not cute, and that doesn't make me like the character. Whereas with Gene Wilder, he would come up with something sarcastic and smarmy, and something about that smarm made it charming. And just like you said, the charm is totally not present here with his portrayal whatsoever. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I would say, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, you nailed that. That's actually perfect, because yeah, he says you're mumbling, and I thought that at the time, I'm like, he's not mumbling, but it's that whole, you're insulted or embarrassed. So it's the cover up, like, I can't hear you. I can't. But Gene Wilder, you go back to that Wonka, Mike TV would shout really loud. And so he would sarcastically, like I said, one of my favorite lines, I'm a little deaf in this ear. Could you speak a little louder? That's charming. That's funny, because you can give it right back. And he was insulting Wonka, but Wonka gave it right back in sarcasm. This one was just that awkward, like, I don't like you and you're embarrassing me. So I don't know. I was kind of just disappointed with that. And I guess the other thing that I didn't like that sticks out to me, because I'm going to keep it simple, though, that's the simple way of it. The other was the Oompa Loompa songs were very cringy to me. I could hardly get through those songs. You mentioned Danny Elfman. The score is fine. I think it did a good job on the music. It's Danny Elfman. But the actual like songs, I was not a fan of them. I was waiting for it to end, honestly. When they would start, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And that's how my kids were with the first one because of the musicals. But this time I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like my kids this time. So I don't know. How did you feel about them?
Well, that's where I have to disagree with you because I actually really like the songs. I mean, as far as they're catchy, I don't know. We'll get into like the fun fact here real quick because we're touching on it right now. But all of those songs specifically are ripped right from the book. So they included exactly the songs that were on the written page, sung and come to life. And believe it or not, that's Danny Elfman's voice that you hear over each one of the songs. So it's very interesting because you don't get to hear his voice too often. But before I even knew that, though, I mean, I really, really did enjoy those songs. I think they're goofy enough. And I mean, if you have to sit through Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and going through all this, I think the reward at the end of each character's demise, if you will, is that song. And you're like, oh, okay, well, at least we'll hear another Danny Elfman over Deep Roy acting. A little bebop there. So I actually did like that, but I can see why some would not, including yourself. Yeah.
That does make sense, though. And one thing we'll probably get into it more when we hear from reviews is I've heard people say this follows the book a lot closer. So when you say that it's based off of the book, that makes a lot more sense. I will say it just didn't click with me. I'll just put it that way. Maybe it's just not my cup of tea. I like silly, I like wacky, but there was just something off-putting about it. And, it wasn't terrible. I've definitely heard worse things. So it wasn't like nails on a chalkboard, but I was just kind of like, okay, I'm ready for the next scene at that point.
No, it definitely didn't save the movie for me. Let me just put it that way. I still didn't love it. It didn't save it for me. But you mentioned it was like the book. So not only are the songs ripped right from the book, it does incorporate more of the elements directly from the book to the film. And so just not just the songs, but also the prince and the chocolate palace at the beginning that you see, that's from the book. That was actually in there where the chocolate drips down on them. Their whole palace is gone after the sun melts it. The squirrel room is from the book as well. And so, we got the geese with the 1971 version. The squirrel, definitely more realistic than the goose that lays the golden eggs. The title itself, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that's the name of the book. And Charlie's dad is alive and well in 2005. He was passed away in 1971. So I like that connection too, because the dad could go and to get stuff at the store, where in the 1971 version, I'm like, how did the chocolate bar, who got that? If Grandpa Joe can't walk, who got it? And the mom was back at home. So yeah, that was cool that he, incorporated all that stuff in there. I think it worked better in 1971, taking those liberties and changing the things the way that they did. I like that version.
I agree. I think they did some good things. This isn't like terribly done. It just felt a little bit, I guess, disappointed is the word I keep coming back to. Is it seemed like there was a lot more there. They just kind of took a little meat off and said that's good enough. They didn't want to go all the way, and I think they could have developed a little bit better at times. The flashbacks, I will say, it's nice to see. Just a random thing to throw in there. Is Christopher Lee. It's great to see him. I love his voice. It was great, but it was still awkward, having that flashback. It's just a shame. He could have been utilized a little better. He did a great job in that role. I mean, he played that stern dentist for a dad. I mean, that was perfect. But unfortunately, again, it was a flashback that kind of took me out. So that's another one I can think of positives. There was a few positives. I thought that was well done. This film has that. It's just, again, I'll go back to, it was kind of disappointing, if I'm going to be frank, when I'm watching it. And I think a big of it is just Johnny Depp, unfortunately. Just this time I'm going to kind of hound on him a little bit for his acting. But, just this one time I'll do that. Well, why don't we go ahead and move into our fun facts? This is a time when Seth normally will give those. So thank you, Ajax, for filling in again for Seth. But what kind of fun facts do you have?
Well, we already talked about Danny Elfman as the voice of the Oompa Loompas, which is interesting. So I got a few more here for you. Johnny Depp was so impressed with Freddie Highmore's performance in the film Finding Neverland that he recommended Tim Burton to view him for the role of Charlie Bucket. And sure enough, he was cast as Charlie Bucket. So that's interesting. Highmore, great actor, still acting today. And then rather relying on CGI, Burton wanted the 40 squirrels in the nut room to be real. So the animals were actually trained every day for 10 weeks before filming commenced, and the close-ups and main action are real, but the scenes and the supplemental content is all CGI, just like pretty much everything else in the film. So, and then my last one I got for you is a trivia question, whenever you're ready for that.
All right, I'm going to psych myself up. I'm ready. Okay.
All right, here we go. Nestle provided how many chocolate bars for the filming of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? 125, 1,850, 3,700, or 6,400? So A, 925, B, 1850, C, 3,700, or D, 6,400?
It feels like I need the, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, like 50-50 to knock out, but I'm going to try and do this here. I've got it down to 2. I'm going to go with you said 3,750. I think I'm going to go with that one.
3,700? Okay.
700.
It was actually 1,850. So 1,850 Nestle bars.
That was my second one. Man, I was so close. I had it down to the 2 at least.
It was close.
I was thinking middle. There are a lot of bars, like the part where it goes worldwide. There's displays and people grab them and stuff. So that's where my mind was going. Like, wow, they had to use a lot, but that's still a lot. That is a lot of chocolate. Surprised? I don't think Nestle. Well, it's Wonka bars, but I don't remember Nestle getting any kind of recognition, any kind of subtle promotion or anything like that. Do you remember seeing Nestle at all in the movie?
I'm not sure, and I should know this, but I don't even know if Nestle owns Wonka, like the actual company. They might, but I haven't looked it up, so I don't know.
Wow.
It's possible.
That's true. For a while, there was Wonka candy, so that's probably what it is. So, well, I guess I'll get the next one, but at least I got it. I was close, I think, because that was my second choice, but it is what it is. But thank you for the fun facts and for that trivia. So, before we get to our reviews, let's take a look around the net. I've got a few reviews here just to see what kind of views are out there for this movie. So I have Friedenberg David. He says, legendary to any kid from the 2000s, and gave it a 9 out of 10. Did you think it was pretty legendary for like 2000s? Kind of going back to that. Do you remember seeing that a lot?
I mean, I liked it more back then, a lot more back then, but legendary, I wouldn't put it in those terms, no.
I probably wouldn't, but it's still interesting to look back in the time portal. Like I said, I just think of all the merchandise. So to a lot of people, I'm sure that's how they felt. And this one's for Seth. We have a repeat offender. The Little Songbird says, rather disappointing effort from Tim Burton, but gives it a 6 out of 10. So it seems like they still kind of liked it, but big shout out to the Little Songbird there, because we like to hear their reviews on the movies we cover. This one is from Kirk246. He says, chocolate, and gave it a 10 out of 10. And the reason I wanted to mention this is if you read his review, it's just talking about the chocolate. So I think this guy really likes chocolate, and this just hit on all the notes for him. I guess, but I mean, hey, each person, they have their likes, and I could definitely see it. If you like chocolate, there's a lot of good chocolate shots, as it should have been. And then I do have one more bonus one. This last one is another repeat offender. Seth has mentioned this one before. It's CC the Movie Man, says, as good as I hoped it would be, and gave it a 9 out of 10. So he really liked that one. And again, repeat offender there. So, all right. So let's get down to it. Let's give our review. I'm going to start with you, Ajax, as our guest. So I have to ask you the question. When it comes to the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, how are you going to rate it? Are you going to take it home? Are you going to leave it at grandma's? Are you going to hide it in the attic?
All right, so I mentioned that I really like the Danny Elfman music. I really like Deep Roy as the Oompa Loompas, and I liked the songs, but they couldn't save the movie for me. overall, the cons way outweighed the pros, especially Wonka portrayal from Depp, which means I'm going to bury that thing so far in the attic that I hope I never find it again because I don't need to ever watch it again because we have the 1971 version, which is so much better, so very much better. So yeah, I'm hiding it.
Hey, wow. You're very passionate about hiding it too. I was wondering if you'd still leave it at grandma's, but that's a for sure certainty with your answer there. And when it comes to Seth, he did forward along his review. So I'm going to go ahead and read his thoughts. So here is Seth's rating for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He says, I tried to think this might have been its generation's favorite telling of the story, at least to some. The casting, in my opinion, is great, but I felt it was a bit too updated, if that makes sense. I will leave this at grandma's. And I think that makes sense, Seth. Comment on that. If it went a little too updated, I kind of like that because if you're going to make a modern take on a movie, you do need to kind of update it. At the 1971, the computers and other technology, that was out of date. When you watch it now, you can still appreciate it. But certainly, if you're going to update it, why not? Like the video games is kind of the more Mike TV aspect, not the Westerns, because that was big at the time. But I get what you're saying there. Yeah, for sure. About it feeling maybe a little too updated. And this is definitely the time of 2000s. I feel like this is like that time capsule. If you want to know what 2000s was like, the tones, the CGI, like we mentioned, very similar to that time period. Well, for me, I think you can tell I didn't really have the best experience with this one. Again, there were some positives. I bring out, like you said, Danny Elfman did a good job on the score. There was some positives, again, with the casting. I agree with Seth on that. I think the cast did a good job. But outside of Johnny Depp was just too much of a sore thumb to me to overlook. He just, again, he could have a different interpretation. I'm not saying he had to be exactly like Gene Wilder's. It was just not what I was hoping for. It really was bad. It was just more of a annoying character to me, unfortunately. He had some funny lines here and there. He had his moments. I mean, seeing him run into the glass, I remember that being in the trailer and how the hat pops up and everything. There's little funny things here and there, but it just, like you said, it wasn't enough to overcome those bad things. So I am also going to be hiding this one in the attic. I don't have any reason to see this one as well. I'm going to be going back to 1971 if I want to watch it because it's just hard to outdo that one. I mean, why mess with a classic, as they say? Well, we got our rating, so let's get to Grandma's rating. So Ajax, what is Granny's family-friendly rating for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Well, the tunnel scene was much less scarier in the updated version. It ended up being more like an amusement park ride, so it really wasn't that bad at all. However, that scene was replaced by a lot of peril involved in Augustus and Veruca's scenes where they, got taken away. And so for that reason, we're going to give it a B minus for Grandma's rating.
Yep. So there you go. I think the one positive I forgot to throw in there is you do see them all leave the factory. I mean, the original was kind of like, what happened to them? You just kind of have to go with, yeah, they're okay. But it does leave it up to a mystery. This one does make it a little less intense because, like you said, the Augustus scene was actually more intense than the original and Veruca. But you do see them walk out okay. And it was kind of funny seeing like Violet super stretchy because they had got all the juice out of her and now she's like super flexible. So that's another positive I'll throw in there. But yeah, just be aware it's still Tim Burton-like. It's got its dark tones, so be aware of it. Grandma might not mind, but at times maybe she's kind of on edge a little bit because it is a Tim Burton movie. Well, there it is, folks. We have covered both of the Charlie and Chocolate Factory movies. It's another movie in the book. Thank you so much, Ajax, for filling in for Seth this week. And in return, we want to, again, make sure you get the spotlight. So why don't you tell the good people where people can find and connect with you?
Well, thank you. On most of the socials, you can find me at Ajax2727. On TikTok, you can find me at broken_spatulas. And then I do have a new podcast coming out called Cover Wars. You can find me on YouTube at Cover Wars Podcast, Facebook at Cover Wars Podcast, and on TikTok at Cover Wars.
All right. Yeah, go check those out. That's lots of great content that Ajax puts out. So be sure to give him a follow and a like as a big thank you for filling in for us here. And again, for Movies at Grandma's House, we are here on YouTube. We are on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on Instagram. We're on Facebook. So give us a follow there. We have a newsletter. Be sure you sign up because we have a monthly prize courtesy of movieposters.com where you can win our random drawing for a free poster of your choice. There's lots of other goodies in there. So be sure you're signed up. That's the best place to be up to date with all things Movies at Grandma's House. So that's going to do it for now. But don't worry, we will be back to Grandma's soon. So in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.